Hey, you guys, welcome back to the Mountain Views program here on Park City Television. One of the great things about having music on the program regularly is that we've had the opportunity to create relationships with some amazing artists. And this evening is another get-together with a fellow who has really become one of our absolute favorites here at PCTV. He's a lovely cat, and of course, as you've already seen from a couple of tunes, he is a fantastic songwriter, player, and singer, and so it's always a pleasure to have him back tonight. We're going to talk not only about music, but we are also going to talk about the subject of mental health and of the suicide crisis that we have seen around us, a topic that is very important to both myself and Life on Mars, Rayn Morrison.
Thank you so much for having me. I
Love
really
you,
do
brother.
appreciate
Great to see
it.
you.
You too.
Welcome
Thank
back.
You. Thank you.
We kind of got a regular thing happening here.
Yeah,
It's
depending on the project, I make sure to come around.
Right. Well, you can always make it solo, right? So even if things become a little
Exactly. Life on Mars.
a little
There we
high
go.
anxiety, life on Mars, indeed. So, what's new? I know that you did some touring this summer.
Yeah, I was on tour with a couple of bands. Unfortunately, that didn't, pan out in the end goal, but that's okay. It was a chalk it up to experience.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. I've joined a new band, which is, I'm pretty sure what you were referring to by the thing I can't announce tonight. But pretty soon I'll announce it. Like, I'm thinking maybe tomorrow night I'll probably post it on my social media at Life on Mars Music. Shameless plug.
That's what we're here to do.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, touring was it was a great experience.
Is that the longest you've been out? A couple of weeks?
Yeah. Ended up being out about 2.5 weeks.
That's great, man. I feel like you're made for touring.
I think I am. I think a lot of people aren't, for sure. There's
Yes.
there's quite a mental toll that comes with touring that people don't realize.
Absolutely, yeah. It's the physical side of it is real. You got to be prepared to not sleep comfortably.
You sleep in a van with no air conditioning for 2 weeks. Yeah. No, it's hard. It's good though. I mean, again, it's those of us who want to do it because we love it. And because it's what we're passionate about. And so I don't think anything good comes without a cost.
Absolutely, and I always feel like whatever the hard work is, and in my case, I sort of measure myself by Sundance every year, and about the same length of a tour,
Right.
about 2.5 weeks.
No, yeah, I've heard it's very intense.
I love the idea that, and I was never accused of being a workaholic during my professional corporate career. That being said, it's like if you're willing to do that hard work, you're eliminating a portion of the competition simply through your work ethic alone.
Yeah, the thing is, my father constantly growing up, coincidentally, it was actually more related to sports growing up, but he would constantly mention the Beatles, how they spent, I think it was either 1,000 or 10,000 hours working on their craft before you become a master of it.
Sure.
And so, he used that relating to sports, which I was very fond of growing up, but, ironically enough, it ended up being the music industry for me.
All those music analogies.
Yeah, and so, for me, it's like, I don't know, I suppose I grew up with that mentality of you need to work for what you get, and if you don't put in the work, you don't get anything. So, my main focus in life has become music the last couple of years.
It's great.
And I've been pounding that guy, even if sometimes I don't want to anymore.
Sure. Well, and you got to push through those periods where you feel uncertain.
Absolutely. And I feel like that happens to every artist too.
Sure.
Like I hate to say that, but I feel like every artist can understand that there are lulls.
No question about it.
Ups and downs.
In any relationship, even if it's your own relationship with music.
Absolutely. Yeah, and there have definitely been times where I play a song and be like, that's a stupid song, I hate it. I want to cancel it and just be done. And then I'm like, wait, no, but I don't know, you know. Like,
Sure.
we
Well,
wrote
even
this
if you take one lyric or one couplet from a song that you've spent time working on, and then you ultimately decide you don't like the chord progression or something about it doesn't please you anymore, there's still those nuggets in there, and maybe just one transition, right?
Yeah,
That,
no, for sure.
whether it's lyrics or...
And that's the other thing too, is it's hard to decide when to stop. Like when it's become enough, when you need to move on versus, you know, stick with this thing and progress further. Because like, I mean, mad respect for people who hold on and just, you know, endure the hardship and keep going. But there is, I do think that the famous artists, you know, the artists we remember are those that knew how to let go eventually. I'm not saying they like took it easy, but they put all they could into it and realized when it was when enough was enough. And like their opinion now versus when they wrote that song is different. And so changing that song would alter the entire concept itself. And so I try to do that. I try to let the songs I wrote be the songs I wrote as they were back then. You know, I'll edit and work, but after a certain point, I try to let them go, which has been a really good experience. And
it occurs to me that every song is like a film, and if you look at I don't know who I'm going to try and think of that wasn't already a master filmmaker to begin with, but became, well, I was going to say Scorsese, but
yeah.
he wasn't too bad at the very beginning.
Right,
so
right.
That's a bad example. But the fact that any film, just like any song, is a snapshot of a period in time, and you can make the analogy to not just the song itself, the lyrics, but also who you are, who you were at a particular time. Obviously, you're still a pretty young guy, so to say 5 years ago, to you, that's a really long time. Yeah. And there's a lot of
time
change.
Is relative.
Yes, and
Absolutely.
There's change in those eras where, like you say, you've really just come to music in the last 2 years as far as really, really focusing and concentrating on it.
Yes.
And that's a whole nother level from, hey, if you want to play other people's songs, you can just do that. You don't have to write a single song, let alone a single good song. But if you want to make a life out of this art and this journey, then immediately on that decision, the pressure's on, because it's like, oh, I guess I better start writing really good songs now.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, and that's definitely been a thing. For me, always it's been lyrics and singing over anything else.
Yeah.
You know, I've considered myself a writer my entire life.
That's cool.
The singing was a coincidence. I just happened to have a decent voice and one that stood out above others, I guess. You know,
yes,
I've been
absolutely.
told, people have told me it's unique. And so I tried to use that to really push for lyrical concepts. You know, my biggest frustration with music now is that I feel like the lyrics are lost. Like people are too focused on the beat, and, you know, whether they can dance to it or not, to listen to what they have to say. And so my musical idols are all people who had very much to say. And I feel like I have a lot to say, and I try to portray that in my music the best I can. And that's the goal, really, is I want people to listen. You know, even more than listen, I want people to listen, understand, and realize that we're not all so different. You know, I've been through some hardships, which we'll talk about, you know. Yeah. Again, that's part of why this has become a show that we're talking about. But with those, they've shaped me into who I am and who I want to be, but I also want other people to realize that they're not alone in those feelings. And so my music's sad. You know, I always feel bad. I get up and I'll be like, so I'm going to play some sad songs for you now.
Well, I think you also can't go against your fundamental, elemental nature.
Right.
And if that is, whether you want to call it a worldview or a perspective from which to write songs, in any of those cases, if it reflects who you are, then it's honest, and all the better to allow potential fans, potential audience to select you based on understanding and resonating with what you are are addressing, as opposed to saying,
And-
well, I'm going to try and write happy songs because nobody likes sad songs.
Nobody listens to them on the radio.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
no, I
it's
can't
okay.
do that. I have to be true to myself for my music. I'd rather die than write music that wasn't extremely important to me. And I'm very deliberate in the lyrics that I write, and very deliberate in the way I play guitar while singing those lyrics
No question about
to
it.
elicit
Certainly
emotion. Yeah. So it's like you said, kind of like a film.
Yeah.
It's a simplified version of film.
Absolutely.
As I'm trying to make people feel something.
And there are images that go with each and every one of those words.
Yes.
Hey, let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about mental health and about this pernicious issue of suicide that seems to be all around us these days. More after this with Rayn Morrison. Stay tuned. Hey, you guys, welcome back. We are chatting with our good friend Rayn Morrison. He is performing this evening on the program, and that project is called Lyfe on Mars. Welcome back, brother.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for staying and not leaving during the commercial break.
Oh, of course.
It's never
yeah.
occurred to me that I should be more grateful that no one has ever left the program during commercial break. So I guess that's a win.
Yeah, it is.
You're still here. Yes.
Yeah, you kept me engaged with conversation.
I did.
for sure.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. There was an offer of a cash reward.
Yeah, the cash reward and
Stick around till 7, buddy.
the ancient map from your great uncle
That's
that you just inherited.
I love it. So, as we're cracking up laughing and I'm throwing my head back in laughter, I want to tell folks at home that the issue of mental health, of mental struggle, and of depression and associated illnesses and diagnoses and suicide is a topic that you suggested to me, which, first of all, I want to say thanks for that. We've discussed the topic on this program with some regularity, but honestly, this is the first time that anyone who was coming on the show has said, I want to talk about this. And if you would, share with us why that is.
You know, the main basis, honestly, for the music I write is involved in that concept very heavily, whether it's my own mental illness or experiences with suicides of people close to me. I write this music for myself originally. You know, it's therapeutic to me, but the reason I share it is because I want people to know they're not alone.
Yeah.
And I feel like the biggest, as someone who struggles with depression and anxiety very heavily, I feel like some of the biggest issues I face are feeling alone. And so I don't ever want someone else to feel like that. You know, and the music I write isn't necessarily happy and joyful, like it won't necessarily fill you with, you know, excitement and joy, but it'll let you know that you're not alone.
And I can think of many artists who, for me, have been that salve, that medicine, that therapy, that togetherness.
Right.
And I would have to say that for my part, to encourage you to stay true to that, because like I say, I think we can all relate, and the other thing is that you don't have to be all things to all people. And
Right.
so if what you're providing through your own honesty and truth is something that people can relate to, and whether that's, you know, today is an incredibly hard day, and tomorrow I don't need to listen to Lyfe on Mars, but that doesn't mean
Absolutely.
that there isn't going to be another day when Lyfe on Mars is going to save my life. And to me, that's a beautiful and noble calling to be able to put that into words and to follow that as a mantra and as a guide.
I mean, the goal isn't to save people's lives, really. You know, I've definitely had those songs that changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the real goal, is I want people to realize that suicide isn't the only option. You know, there's so many other things, so many people you can reach out to that you don't realize. You'll find refuge in places you never imagined if you open up and try. And so that's why, we live in an age of social media where you have these social media, these Instagram models
Sure.
who their life looks perfect.
Yep.
And it makes everybody else feel bad about their life. But really their life isn't any better than yours or like any different. They struggle, they have hardships. Really, it's just what they portray in social media. And so that's good for them. Not trying to bag on them at all,
Sure.
but with my music, I want people to realize the hardships of life and understand that everybody goes through hardships. So rather than seeing these perfect lives, perfect people who have no problems whatsoever, is I try to show my flaws and my insecurities. Like you said, the truths, they're hard. It is hard sometimes to sing some of my songs. Like mentally taxing to me.
Absolutely, I could see that.
But I do it again because I really, really I don't want people to feel like I felt before.
Here's a thought that I've had, and I think it speaks to that place where you're feeling so very alone and feeling as though whatever the problems in your life are, and of course we can point to high-profile, amazing, beautiful people like Chris Cornell and Tony Bourdain, who we say they have it all, and we find out through these acts that they are suffering and struggling as mightily despite their intellect and their talent and their drive and their career and their
Right.
adoration and all those things. As I've struggled with times when I was feeling very depressed and feeling as though maybe there was no other option, I feel fortunate that a thing that came to my mind is that if you get to that point where you're considering that as an option, you have a free life now because you're ready to leave everything, including everything that is troubling you, behind.
Absolutely.
And in an instant, you can do that. You can leave all those things behind, but you can't take the good with you. So if you've reached that point, you're free, you're in the clear, because now you can make any decision to seek your own happiness and reject those things that do not help you in that healthy direction.
Right.
I don't know, just something that's...
No, I think that's a beautiful example of looking, finding the positive in the negative. You're talking about someone who's ready to give up.
Yeah.
Someone who has nothing to lose. That sounds sad when you say it, but when you think about it, you have so many options after that.
Yeah, and I guess that's...
And it's absolutely true. And even without necessarily like giving up on all past, things and
Right.
venues, so you have a lot of people to fall back on. You'd be surprised the people that are willing to help you out. Like even if they're like an internet friend. Like I've had some internet friends come through for me before, people I've known for years, and like help me to learn and grow. Again, it's like just cast that net and be open to learning and experience and growing. And again, like you said, nothing to lose. If you have nothing to lose, you have a lot to gain. And so the important thing is trying to understand that you have a lot to gain versus that's a reason to stop, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
And I think it's also important to mention, obviously, we're two guys on a talk show in love with music, and we're not mental health professionals. We don't
Not
have
at all, no.
any solutions, but by the same token, I think that simply sharing and simply being honest, I don't know, but
Hopefully
I
it will
don't
help.
know that Chris Cornell ever said, "I'm depressed," in front of a microphone during
Right.
a Soundgarden concert or an Audioslave concert. And again, that's, there's no assessment there other than I feel like it's really cool and fortunate that here we are having this conversation on live television, and it's good for us, regardless of what we congratulate ourselves about helping anyone else. It's good for us, and it's good by way of example to say, I am a depressed person. I'm not in any way out of the normal.
No, yeah, and I mean, you know, that's
Those
that's the thing for me again. Is like you feel so isolated and confused, and when you're able to accept the fact that you are experiencing depression. You aren't depressed. You're experiencing depression. When you're able to pull yourself back from that concept of it being the innate behavior that you are, like who you are, I guess, you're not a depressed person, you're experiencing depression, is when you're able to see that so many people go through that. And that's when you're really able to open up to the fact that you're not so alone. And again, isolation is debilitating, and it's, you know, it feels right when you're depressed or going through anxiety, that your behavior, you want to isolate, but it's the worst thing you can do for it, in my experience. In order to get better, it won't necessarily be easy, and you know, unfortunately, none of us asked for anything in this life. We were just given it. If you're experiencing these things, you know, I'm sorry. I feel for you.
And also reach out to...
Absolutely. Again, that's the thing, is we all have our struggles.
Thanks to Rob and Parker, there it is, 273-8255, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And I love that phrase and the fact that they've titled it that way. And I thank you for sharing, man.
Yeah, of course.
It's beautiful and important stuff. And I'm a big fan of everybody who comes on this show, but we're big fans of yours.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Keep the courage to do what you do, because a lot of people need it.
Thank you.
And I know I do. So
thank you.
Thanks, brother.
Of course.
Hey, social media, before we get out of here.
Yeah, it's at Life on Mars Music on Instagram, Life on Mars on Facebook. I'm on SoundCloud. I am currently in the process of recording with a very fancy producer a full-length album. It'll be about 13 tracks.
Wow, that's great.
So stick around. On SoundCloud, I do have some demos for you, so you can listen to some stuff and learn, but
nice.
Nothing official yet.
Love you, brother.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Love
man.
you too. Thank you.
There's Rayn Morrison, Life on Mars Music, Lyfe. Listen and get lots of good, nutritious, good feelings from this talented artist. We're going to take a break. More music and more show after this. Please stay tuned.